On the channel today, we will take a look at what actions are needed to restore a fallen fence.
Welcome back to Land Survey Learn Boundary Talk. I'm Candace, and across the desk from me, looking especially ready for a field day in that flannel, is Mike.
You know me, Candace. I'm always one storm away from grabbing my machete and a prism pole. Welcome back to our YouTube family. We've got a great community growing here, and today we're diving into the mailbag.
We really are. We received a letter that is just so vivid, it felt like I was watching a movie. It comes from Janice, and Mike, I think you're going to recognize this scenario immediately. It's a classic post-storm boundary blues story.
The after the storm calls are usually about 40% of my business in the spring. Let's hear it.
All right, Janice writes, "Please help. A storm blew my fence over. The wind started as a low whistle around the eaves of the house about 10 p.m., but by midnight it was a full-throated roar. I sat in my living room with a flashlight, watching the branches of the old oak tree whip back and forth like they were possessed. Then I heard it. A sickening crack, followed by a heavy, muffled thud that seemed to vibrate right through the floorboards. I knew exactly what it was. My backyard fence had finally given up and fell over.
Ooh, that sound, the vibration through the floorboards, that's never a good sign. That's the sound of a structural failure in a future bill.
It gets worse the next morning. She says, when the sun came up, the backyard looked like a disaster zone. 8 panels of cedar were lying flat across the wet grass like a fallen deck of cards. But the real headache started about an hour later when my neighbor, Mr. Henderson, came out to survey the damage. He wasn't there to offer a hand. He was pointing at the pile of wood and claiming that the fence had actually been 2 inches over his property line for the last 20 years. He started talking about how this was the perfect time to correct the mistake and move the new fence further into my yard. Now I'm stuck. I don't want to start a neighborhood war, but I also don't want to lose part of my garden. I want to do this right. Since the old monuments might have been disturbed by the posts being ripped out, I'm not sure who to call. Can someone assist me on exactly where I am legally allowed to put the fence back up?
Oh, classic Mr. Henderson. There's always a Mr. Henderson, isn't there? The fence hits the ground and suddenly everyone's an amateur surveyor with laser beam eyes that can see 2 inches of encroachment.
Right? I've been staring at those 2 inches for 20 years, and today is the day of reckoning.
It's actually very common. People live in peace for decades with a fence, and the moment it's gone, the territorial instinct kicks in. Janice, first of all, take a deep breath. You aren't going to lose your garden today.
Exactly. And Janice, you hit on a very important point in your letter. The monuments. You mentioned the fence posts might have ripped them up. If those were the actual property corners and they've been disturbed or obliterated, you have a technical problem that only a professional can solve.
That's our first and biggest recommendation. Janice, you need to hire a licensed professional land surveyor in your area. Don't let Mr. Henderson pull out a tape measure from his garage and start marking things. You need a neutral, third-party professional who has no stake in the garden or the 2 inches.
And if you're wondering where to find one, it's easier than you think. You can obviously search online for land surveyors near me, but a better bet is to look for your state's Professional Land Surveyors Association or your local land surveying chapter website. Most of them have a Find a Surveyor tool where you can look up someone licensed and in good standing right in your zip code.
Now, let's talk about that 2 inches for a second. Mike's surveying history lesson time. Janice, there is something we call a fence of convenience.
Oh, I love this topic. Explain it to the folks, Mike.
Sometimes, years and years ago, 2 neighbors, maybe even the people who lived in your houses before you and Mr. Henderson, decided to put up a fence. They didn't want to pay for a survey, so they just looked at a telephone pole or a bush and said, looks close enough. They put it where it was easiest to dig. That fence was never intended to represent the actual legal property line. It was just a convenient way to keep the dogs in.
Exactly. And over 20 years, people start to believe the fence is the line. If it turns out the fence was 2 inches off, it doesn't necessarily mean anyone was trying to steal land. It just means the fence was a fence of convenience.
But here's the kicker. If you and Mr. Henderson cannot agree on where that fence should go, if he wants it moved and you want it where it was, the only place that makes sense to put it back up is exactly on the legal property line.
And you can't know where that is without a survey. If you put it back where it was without checking and Mr. Henderson is right, he could sue you for encroachment. If you move it toward your house like he wants and he's wrong, you've just gifted him a strip of your yard for no reason.
Get the survey. It provides a map, a record of survey, or a corner record that settles the debate once and for all. It turns a neighborhood war into a technical fact. It's hard to argue with a brass tag and a professional seal.
There's also the money aspect, Janice. You mentioned wanting to follow the law. Many states and local jurisdictions have what we call a good neighbor fence law.
This is a big one. In many places, the law assumes that a fence on a property line benefits both neighbors. Therefore, both neighbors are equally responsible for the reasonable costs of construction, maintenance, and, in your case, replacement.
Janice, the process is simple. Find a local PLS through your state's chapter website. Have them perform a boundary survey and stake the corners. Show those stakes to Mr. Henderson. Discuss the good neighbor cost sharing.
And if the monuments were indeed ripped out by the storm, the surveyor will reset them. That gives you peace of mind for the next 20 years. No more guessing, no more sickening neighbor disputes.
We hope that helps, Janice. You'll be back in the garden in no time, and it's worth protecting. Let us know how it goes with Mr. Henderson. We're rooting for you.
Definitely. And for everyone else watching, if you've got a Mr. Henderson in your life or a fence that's looking a little wobbly after the latest gusts, do yourself a favor and look up your local surveyor before the fence hits the grass. After a storm, you will not be the only one looking for a surveyor.
That's our show for today. Thank you so much for listening and watching Land Survey Learn Boundary Talk. If you found this helpful, please hit that like button down below. It really helps the channel reach more people who might be dealing with their own fallen fences.
And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss an episode. We're expanding the show, and we'll be talking more about the lines that pull us together and sometimes push us apart.
Well said, Mike. See you all in the next one.
If you have any topics that you would like for us to discuss on Land Boundary, please feel free to add them to the comments section.
No matter how basic,
Or how complicated.
we will try our best to answer them.
Bye. Take care.